The Speed Twin is up there with Triumph's most charming machines, a bike that's all about style, substance and simplicity. But in 2025, the Speed Twin 900 is facing increasing pressure from its rivals, from emission regulations, and most importantly, from you guys who want the most for the money. So does this modern classic roadster still have what it takes, or is it just living off its looks? I'm Usernamekate, and in this video, we're going to try and find out. The 2025 Speed Twin 900 might not scream change, but look closer and there's been a bit of a glow up. The unmistakable silhouette is still here, the sculpted 12-litre tank, twin upswept exhausts and a classic round headlight. But Triumph's added new colourways, uprated Mazzocchi suspension at the front and the rear, and a new aluminium swing arm to keep things fresh. Under the skin, it's packing the same 900cc parallel twin engine, Euro 5 compliant, torquey as ever, and tuned for real-world fun rather than rev-happy madness. Braking comes from Triumph's own branded caliper up front. We have cornering ABS and cornering traction control, and the suspension's received upgraded internals, giving it a little more composure on the road. Up in the cockpit, we have a clean TFT, an LCD combo dash, we have an LED headlight with DRL, a dipped beam switch and self-cancelling indicators. Easy to live with, fun to ride and unmistakably Triumph. Let's see what it's all about on the road.
Alright guys and girls, we are on Triumph's Speed Twin 900. Now I haven't ridden this bike before. I was fortunate enough to ride its big brother on the launch, but I haven't managed to ride the 900. So here we are, of course, we are very much down on power by comparison to the 1200, but we're going to ride it today and take it for what it is, which is a grunty, torquey machine. Now I say that because this bike has 64 brake horsepower and that is peaked at 7,500 RPM. But this bike actually has more torque than it does power, and it has 80 Newton meters of torque. It's a parallel twin with a 270-degree crank, and oh my gosh, if you gotta give this bike anything, it's that it sounds delicious. When I first fired this bike up, I'd never fired it up before, I looked at Mike and I was like, oh, that sounds nice. And I stand by that. Oh, it's just got such a chug 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 to it. Oh, lovely. Absolutely love it. We're in a 40 now, so we've got to behave ourselves. Passing the holly bush, but thankfully it goes back into a 50, so we'll drop it down a few cogs. Listen! Oh, it just sounds lovely under acceleration. So we've got a few new things for 2025. Most notably, I think we've got a 6-axis IMU, which is great because it allows this bike to have cornering traction control and cornering ABS, and it's just a nice little safety feature. Let's come away from the man. Not only do we have an IMU, we've got a nice new headlight arrangement. So we've got daytime riding lights, just designed to make you a little bit more visible. And then one thing that comes as standard equipment, which I think is quite nice, is the addition of this USB-C port on the dash. For this year we also have brand new 43mm Mazzocchi upside downers, but they are non-adjustable. And so far what I can feel is, I feel like they're a little bit on the softer side without feeling wallowy, but definitely kind of plushy. At the rear we've got the rear suspension unit, Mazzocchi's, adjustable for preload. So we've got a mode button at the bottom here. So we've got road mode and we've got rain mode. So I'll put it in road mode. So to look at the dash, we have that slightly offset circular dash, which is the same as on the Scramblers and the other Speed Twin 1200 and the Bobber and kind of most of the Bonneville range. And I know that it very much divides opinion. There's a lot of people that, you know, aren't too much of a fan of the colour TFT at the bottom and the LCD at the top, but I actually really like it. I think it's pleasant to look at, it tells me all I need to know. GS. And yeah, I rate it. So I've just ridden this bike on the motorway, obviously to get to the beautiful roads of Derbyshire, the Peak District. And one thing that surprised me was as I was shifting up the box on the motorway, I couldn't shift after 5th. I thought it would be a 6-speed gearbox, but evidently it is a 5-speed transmission. Which just caught me off guard. I'm like, where's my other one? But sat at 77 miles an hour on the motorway, which is 70 on the dash, or 71 should I say. What I did notice was that the revs were sat at 4,000 and this revs up to 7 with 8 as the red line. Oh, tracker! This road should be a national, not a 50. How rude. So another thing that I noticed as well is this bike, it doesn't have much engine braking at all, and that's not necessarily a pro or a con, it's just a matter of taste and preference really. But I noticed when I was on the motorway, I was riding behind my partner Mike and he was braking and I thought, oh, I'll just shut off and the engine will go bah and it'll slow me right down. No, no, it just likes to run on. And like I said, that's not necessarily a con, that's just oh okay, so that's how this engine behaves. Right, I get it. So yeah, for somebody of my stature, this bike is really, really good. In fact, this is borderline crazy low for me. So for those of you who don't watch the channel frequently, I am a 5'4" lady. It's debatable. That's 162 centimeters tall, and I have a 29-inch inside leg measurement, or 73.66 centimeters. And this bike has a seat height of 780mm, which is so low. In fact, I'll insert some footage now of what it's like for me to sit on this bike. Honestly, it's so low, and you can make it even lower with a Triumph OEM seat, which will make it 760mm, so it knocks a whole 20mm off the seat height. So this is an excellent bike for somebody who is, you know, a little bit inseam deficient like myself. The weight of this bike, 216 kilograms, and honestly, it sounds a bit porky for what it is, especially when you look at it, it looks quite a small bike, but honestly it's very, very manageable. Like, I was pushing it in and out of car parking bays and reversing it, and with my body moving it obviously, and it's been absolutely fine. It's been quite easy actually. And then we've got the tank size, 12 litres, so not the biggest tank on the earth, but also a big dirty 1200 parallel twin 8 valve putting out 64 horsepower. It'll be quite frugal, I'm sure. Whoa, it's got some pull in second gear, this thing, when you wind it on. Yeah, even though the horsepower figure might not be all that exciting about this bike, the torque and the sound. You know, certainly give something about it, do you know what I mean? Clear for days. Okay, so our national fun is over. We're about to head into a 30, but look at the cows! Oh, so importantly, the price. So they start from £9,195. That's for the base colour that I'll insert on the screen now. Then if you want any of the other fancy colours that I'll pop up on the screen now, that will cost you £9,545. And with these colour options, as you can see, you can go as loud and proud and bright and spandangly as you like, or you can get something like this, which is more understated and a bit more muted, a bit more subtle. Some could argue a bit more sophisticated. National, so let's give it a little bit of a go. Oh, see, suspension, soft, nice, plushy. Very nice for just soaking up the bumps. Oh, cattle grid. Wind it on. Oh yeah, with that torque, with that grunt, great for British roads, for UK roads where, you know, our legal top speed is 70 on the motorway. Okay, let's head back to the studio for some pros and some cons.
Right everybody, so we're back in off the ride and I want to talk to you guys about my pros and cons. So the first pro for me is the sound. Oh, a cold start in the morning after it's been in the garage all night. It rumbles and it definitely sounds meatier than you'd expect from an A2 compliant machine. Another pro for me is the lack of engine braking. Now, I know this is a wholly subjective matter, but I think in the context of this bike, given who it's aimed at, perhaps a more novice rider or a beginner rider, I think that the lack of engine braking just really leads to a super smooth and relaxed ride, which I think can be quite endearing and nice for somebody who this is aimed at. Of course, there are people that like more aggressive engine braking, and that's fine. I quite like it myself, but you won't really find that with this bike. Another pro, the bench seat comfort. I had no issues after a full day's riding. In fact, my bum only started aching a little bit within the last hour. I understand everybody's high knees are different, so again, quite subjective, but if you're just bobbing about on this bike, especially for shorter trips and commutes, I can't see having any issues with the comfort of the seat. Another pro, this bike is fantastic for shorter riders. The accessibility of it and just opening it up to people that can't get the feet down on most bikes is quite refreshing. And yeah, if you are inseam deficient like myself, if you're even shorter than me, you won't have any issues riding this bike. It's so low, and it can be made even lower with that seat without impacting or messing up the ergos of this bike, so it can ride exactly how it's meant to and you don't have to compromise or suffer. Another pro, just look at it. Just look at it. I'll say no more. I need to say no more. it's elegant. They're sleek lines, especially in this colour option, with everything kind of blacked out, with the pop of grey and gold on the tank. I think it looks fantastic, and I just think it is a stunning bike. I love the fact that it looks really metally and not plasticky. Another pro, the reams and reams of accessories that Triumph have provided for this bike. So this one has been spec'd up with heated grips, but as you can see now, scrolling along, there are so many accessories to really customise this bike, make it your own, and make it different from your neighbours. And then finally, this is just a fun little pro in my eyes. I love the fact that it's an A2 compliant bike with a 900cc lump in it. I mean, you've got bragging rights right there, even if the power is a little bit reined in. Nobody needs to know. Okay, moving on to cons, because nothing's perfect. It's only got 2 modes. We are missing a sport mode, and a sport mode would have been nice just for a little bit of a more lively throttle response. Another con of mine, even though the suspension is uprated for 2025, it is still a little bit on the softer side, and I'm quite a light person, so I can imagine if you are a heavier rider, you might kind of suffer with it a little bit. Even with the preload jacked right up, I still think it might have the potential to be a bit too soft. So if you are in the market and you are test riding and you are heavier, it might be wise just to ask for that preload to be wound up as much as possible. I also think it might be a little bit limited if you do like to partake in a spirited ride more often than not. It can be a bit too soft. But I do understand that perhaps the demographic who would buy this bike are maybe not necessarily speed demons that just want to spank it everywhere, and they might just want a chilled, relaxed ride. And if that's the case, then I'm sure the suspension will be more than adequate. Which does make me think, actually, on that topic, if they brought out an RS version, that could be pretty cool. So since one of my pros was this bike is great for shorter limbed riders, I guess by contrast, you know, a con may be that if you are a little on the taller side, this bike might be a little bit too small or low for you. For example, my partner, he's 5'11", and when he was riding this, he was like, I can't get over how small it is. It literally feels like it could be a 125 in size. And he's 5'11", so if you're kind of like in the 6'3" regions, you know, I think it may probably be a little bit too low or small for you. However, I do appreciate that with 64 brake horsepower, you know, this bike may be targeted at newer riders, like kind of people just doing the A2 or coming up from the A2 to an A bike. And, you know, newer riders can be taller, and newer riders may still want the comfort of being able to flat foot and be completely in control. So I guess a lot of things as well depends on your experience level, your skill level, what you want out of a bike. But if you are on the taller side, definitely go into a dealership or a show, sit on one, maybe even get a test ride and see if you can live with the riding position. Another con in my opinion is the brake. The brake, singular. We've got a single disc at the front and could be sharper. You know, in this day and age, you kind of expect twin discs on bikes of this price, and I understand that it's not stopping much power at 64 brake horsepower, but it is stopping a fair bit of weight at 216 kilograms. So when I've been riding this bike, I have felt like when I have been braking, you know, I've been using the back brake as well as the front brake a little more than I usually do, you know, just in dry conditions, and I feel like that gives me a stopping power that I'm happy with. But yeah, I just feel like, you know, twin discs up front, especially for the weight of this thing, would have been beneficial. Another con, of course, it all rolls back to that dash. Very Marmite. Lots of people prefer the old school twin analog dashes, and they don't like the fact that the dash on this now looks actually quite modern, and it's giving more modern than it is classic. So yeah, there's a lot of people that don't like the dash. I don't personally mind it. I find the functionality really good, I like what it shows. It shows a lot of information you can scroll through. It's all very easy at the touch of the button. The switchgear is very easy to use. You can scroll through and there's so much info, but not in a confusing way, just in a really easy to access way. And it shows me everything that I need, and I actually quite like the dash. I suppose one thing that I will say is in the direct sunlight, it can be a bit hard to read it. And then finally, maybe my last con is that it only has 5 gears, and I feel like some of you will be longing for a 6th gear when doing things like motorway riding. The updated 2025 Speed Twin 900 hasn't really reinvented the wheel, but did it need to? What do you guys think? Do you like this bike? Do you not like this bike? Do you like the colour options? What's your preference? Have you ridden this bike and did you enjoy it? I'm interested to hear what you guys think about the Speed Twin 900. Alright guys and girls, well, take care, look after each other, and I'll see you all on the next vlog. Bye! Hi guys. Hi guys, it's Usernamekate. Welcome back to the channel. Hi guys, it's Usernamekate. Welcome back to the channel. That's how Mike thinks I do my intros, in that exact voice with the exact arm movements. Just for that little bit of excitement. What am I doing? Don't do that. Don't do that. That's weird. That's weird behaviour. Jesus Christ, Jasper just jumped up over the fence, gave me a heart attack. Baby, what are you crying for? Are you joining me? Come on. Come on, let's talk about some cons. Come on. Oi. Let's talk about some cons. Come on. Come on. Come on. What's this? Come on. Up you pop. Up you pop. Come on. Come on. No. Another con, of course, it all rolls back to that dash. Very Marmite. Lots of people prefer the old school twin analog dashes. Oh gosh, don't screen grab this right now because that's a bit awkward. The twin analog, it's even worse. The twin analog dashes. Jasper, what are you doing, stinky boy?